Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going to recap a little bit of Week 7 NFL action and then go over our Week 8 waiver wire. We got a couple interesting options this week, finally. A couple guys that actually help you probably quite a bit for the next week or two maybe, but we'll go over all that after we do this recap. So, Jeff, we're just going to go through, we'll just talk about some of the top performances, maybe some of the not so top performances here. We'll start out at quarterback, and this was the week Aaron Rodgers became Aaron Rodgers again. 53.8 points. That is an unreal game from him. 429 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, throwing the ball, and he ran one in. Just, I mean, that was, not even, I want to say like vintage Aaron Rodgers. That's better than that. It was probably, I think, the best game he's ever had. Now he gets to go against Kansas City next week, who hasn't been very good against the pass. Chargers haven't been very good, really. It could be a couple good weeks here for Rodgers.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think the biggest thing was we knew at some point he was going to break out of his funk. Will it continue? That's the whole question. Devontae Adams is, still banged up. Obviously, their running game has looked pretty good. But let's hope. The last 2 games, he has looked a lot better. And I'm thinking that he might be finally on track, especially like you said, with a good schedule coming up. I would absolutely trust him. Obviously, if you have him, there's a very good chance that you stuck with him and you played him against Oakland. So nice to see him back. And yeah, it was a monster game. So just a lot of fun.
And yeah, not everyone did, though. He wasn't played in every league, which always feel like if you have Aaron Rodgers, I mean, just play him. I wouldn't even have another quarterback.
Yeah.
I hate making a decision on that. Just play your guy you got, like Aaron Rodgers. And if not, you're going to miss out on a week like this. And that's the worst, missing out on the big time week from your star players. There's nothing worse than that at all. And yeah, he was started in 62% of leagues. That's it. 38% of leagues didn't have Aaron Rodgers starting. Yeah, that's not a great move, but all right. Next up, Kirk Cousins, who has been really good here now for 3 weeks in a row. I think that is.
Yeah, so 20 in standard scoring, 24.5, 35, and 37 points respectively against the Giants, Philly, and now Detroit. So, I mean, what do you think? Is he back on track finally? Can you see him continuing this stretch of dominance? Because the last 2 games he's thrown 4 touchdowns. It looks like he has gotten Diggs, Thielen. I mean, even Irv Smith. It's starting to look like they're starting to click. I mean, is this a thing that you can count on now?
I actually do think I can count on this. And the next 2 weeks, Washington and Kansas City. That's, again, 2 great matchups for him. Thielen probably won't be playing this upcoming week, but I think that's fine. I think they'll be perfectly fine with it. Washington's not going to present too much of a challenge. And I think Cousins is something about after that Chicago game, and he was just getting ripped by everybody, where he just, I don't know, he's the kind of guy who figured it out, and they really, truly figured it out. 10 touchdowns in 3 games. Only 3 touchdowns in the 4 before that. So
I mean, it says it all too. I mean, that is crazy. It really is. 4 games he threw 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. The last 3, 10 touchdowns, like you said, only 1 interception, and every game he's gone over 300 yards. I mean, it is almost like unbelievable night and day from what he was doing.
It's funny. I heard there's a couple things that said they were talking about MVP candidates, and one of the fringe candidates is now Kirk Cousins.
I love it.
I mean,
talking like wanting his head on a pike and going from that to MVP. Like, give me a break. People are so
insane.
Yeah, so quick to write someone off.
Then next guy's up on the list. Stafford had another good fantasy game. He's been fairly decent in fantasy. He's had a couple bad ones in there. The Green Bay game wasn't good for him. Philly game wasn't good. But he's in a good matchup is where you're going to have a good. Stafford is just who you play in good matchups. I didn't really know Minnesota would be that, but turned out well. Next couple weeks, Giants and Oakland could be 2 decent ones for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you think with that running back, that backfield of theirs banged up, do you think that they're going to continue to throw with Stafford? Because he has always been up and down this season. But it seemed like last week when they couldn't get the run game going, that's when he really exceeded expectations. So do you see that continuing, or do you think that they go back to, to his 11-point, like Green Bay kind of deal where he throws for 250 yards and maybe one touchdown?
Well, it's really going to depend on if Ty Johnson can actually play for Detroit. And if he can't, it's going to be throwing the ball everywhere. And I don't know if he can handle it, if Ty Johnson can handle it. And I don't know who else they're going to use there. I think they're going to throw the ball around a little bit. I think we're going to get a couple big games from Stafford. I would actually be fine with playing him in your lineup if you need to. I think it's going to be pretty good. Then, yeah, the rest of the list, pretty standard. Jacoby Brissett, though, had a big game. He's the next top with 4 touchdowns. He's been actually a lot better in fantasy than I expected.
He has been over 20 points in every game except one. In week 5, he went against KC and had kind of a bummer. But other than that, he has been maybe not. I mean, his numbers won't be top 10 right now, but he is darn near close. And that's because he had the bye. I have been so impressed with what Brissett has been able to do on short notice, taking over for Luck. He is absolutely someone, and for a league where I've lost every quarterback because everyone got hurt early on, I've been playing him, and I have been so happy that I picked him up. And still, people, I feel like, very much underrate him.
And then, yeah, they really do. He's not talked about at all, but he's consistent. But then Lamar Jackson, terrible passing day, just terrible passing day. But hey, 116 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. So he just gets fantasy numbers even on terrible days. And that's what you love about him if he's your quarterback, because you're never going to get that extremely bad game. I mean, think about this. He was 9 for 20, 143 yards passing. That should have been just a brutal game for your quarterback, and yet he gets 23.3 points.
I know. Another guy that you have to love. I mean, he's unreal. It's like watching a video game. It really is.
And then I'll say the rest are pretty simple. There's not many that I'm really terribly disappointed in that you were counting on, except probably Kyler Murray. And he only turned his day into 7 after last week's big game against Atlanta. And that's just give you the nature of it with Kyler Murray. It's going to be up and down. He doesn't have the same floor that Lamar Jackson does. He will run the ball at times fairly decent, but he's only had 2 of those games running the ball so far. He's just not that level. He's going to get you a 7. I have a hard time trusting him. I really do, especially weeks 9 and 11. He gets San Francisco. That's not great. So Kyler Murray, I don't know if you can be going for fantasy playoffs and trust Kyler Murray. I'd probably go pick up Kirk Cousins on the waiver wire and feel better about that.
Oh, without a doubt. Speaking of that, there's one other guy on here that I have to mention. There's a couple guys that had decent outings that are hardly owned anywhere. One of them being Tannehill. You know how I feel about this team. I will never pick up a quarterback, but I do have to say, over 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. He went for 23 points, and he's going against Tampa Bay next week. Is this someone that you can stream, or do you not yet feel comfortable about it? Take Cousins out of it. Say Cousins is already taken.
He would be. He's an option, but only if the Cousins, if the Staffords are taken.
So very non-committal. So not yet.
I just not there yet. But if you're in a bind and this is who you need to go stream, yeah, sure. It's just Tannehill. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet with him. But he's better than Mariota.
Yeah.
I honestly think so at this point. So how about running backs here? Chase Edmonds has the big day, 126 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. The surprise big day because everyone thought David Johnson was going to be playing, and he was one of those active but not really active kind of games.
Yeah, what a tease that is. And everyone's going to be wondering about this, right? I mean, he's going to make every waiver board. Chase Edmonds, we don't know how much he'll be the starter. We don't really know how healthy that Johnson is. But Chase Edmonds is, in your opinion, is he for real? Is he someone worth spending a lot of your waiver money or your top end pick on? Because obviously he does have talent, but is he going to be worthwhile to have moving forward?
Well, if you need a running back for this week, I think Chase Edmonds will be a good play because it looks like the Cardinals are going to be working out running backs tomorrow. It looks like they're working out Jay Ajayi, Spencer Ware. So I don't know why that is unless they don't feel good about David Johnson's health. They might just want to throw a little bit of depth in there. And there's no need to rush David Johnson back at this point. Chase Edmonds can play just fine, it looks like. So if you need a running back for this week, and the problem is New Orleans has been tough though against the run, and then you got San Francisco the week after. It won't turn out like it did this past week. But Edmonds has been valuable for a few weeks now. I would still go. There's no one else out there though, so go get Edmonds, and if you need to run it back and play him. That's pretty much where I'm at.
And you'll look at the numbers too, right? I mean, the last 3 games, Cincinnati and Atlanta, he only got 8 carries and 5 carries. He still put up over 10 points, 14 and 12, and then obviously the huge 33. But that was going to be my question. 3 out of the next 4 games, if, say, the Johnson really isn't healthy and they want to sit him until the bye in week 10, you do have New Orleans, and then you have San Francisco twice in the matter of 3 weeks. I mean, does that scare you off of him at all?
It does if I had decent options, but if you're one of those people that you just don't have any good options, you don't even worry about it. But yeah, if there's other options out there, you're not probably playing them over people you already have, for the most part. I guess the question would become like a Joe Mixon type. Would you play him over a Joe Mixon?
Gotcha.
And I don't know yet.
Yeah,
I'd have to look a little closer at that when we get to our rankings shows and stuff like that. See where what we would think about that. But he's definitely interesting though as a player right now. And it just isn't, there wasn't much else out there. There won't be much out there in waiver. We'll get to that at the end here, but talk about it for anybody else. Other than Edmonds there, Latavius Murray had a huge surprise game too. When Kamara goes out and you get Murray playing against Chicago, you just automatically think, oh, this isn't going to be good. But Chicago hasn't been as good against run defense or, running backs for fantasy as you just assume by hearing Chicago defense. And Murray turns it around 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just, I guess if Kamara's missing any time, Murray's a sure thing.
Yeah, and he was obviously, if you listen to the show, Latavius Murray has been one of the biggest disappointments for me because I hyped him up thinking that he could immediately step in and take the Ingram role. And he just hasn't gotten the carries in order to do so, even though when he has gotten the carries, he looks pretty good. But it was very good to see this. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. As soon as Kamara comes back, they're going to continue doing what they've been doing because they're winning. Kamara's obviously the better back. But obviously, Latavius Murray is one of the very few golden handcuffs in fantasy right now. I mean, behind... I actually might not be behind anyone. Really. I mean, I think you would have to throw Pollard and maybe, Mattinson out there or something like that. But there's not too many running backs that are sure things if the number 1 guy goes down like Latavius Murray is now.
Yeah, there really isn't many others. Like you said, like a Madison probably is. Pollard might be, but Murray's for sure now. Then after Murray, Dalvin Cook just continues his great season. Just another great game. Don't have really much to say about it. He looks like a really good running back, which we knew he was. He's just healthy now.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Zeke puts together a good game. Austin Eckler just keeps putting up numbers, not on the ground, but 7 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's finding a way to do it because he is getting, first of all, they haven't been able to rush at all the last few games, but only 5 carries, and he still manages to put up, 18 points. That is really, really impressive.
It really is, and Melvin Gordon hasn't gotten going yet, but they're going to still keep giving him all the chances to get going, so Eckler's going to be involved. Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, both solid weeks. Aaron Jones gets a receiving touchdown to make it a better week, but 2 disappointing weeks on the ground since his big 4 touchdown game, but he's still there. Jamal Williams, though, is definitely involved, which is kind of disappointing if you're a Jones owner. Not many other standout games here. Gurley, 18 for 41 on the ground, but he caught the touchdown. Nice touchdown catch. So
yeah, that guy can do it all.
It's weird that, I don't know, that team, I think Gurley's fine. I don't think this is health. This still, to me, isn't a health thing. He's still a great running back. And then after that, not a lot of great things to talk about there. Some disappointments, like Devontae Freeman gets himself 2.5 in standard.
Yeah, give me a break. I know I had him on one of my teams, getting ejected for throwing a punch. I mean, if anyone picks you up in the air, I understand why he did it. But I was just like, I think I had him and Will Fuller playing on one team, and Will Fuller goes out immediately, and then Freeman gets himself ejected. And I was just like, well, okay. That's the week.
Right. Just Kind of disappointing there. Wide receivers. Marvin Jones, I don't know where he came from this week. 10 for 93 and 4 touchdowns. Just, that was, you could not have expected that.
No, and he dropped a touchdown too, which was the crazy part. I mean, they were just going to him. They were just picking on wherever he was. It was crazy. But good for him. Finally good to kind of see him get back into form, because it wasn't, only a couple years ago he was a top 5 wide receiver. He's been very up and down, obviously, since Patricia came in. But obviously he's capable of this. I mean, week 3 against Philly, he went over 100 yards. The touchdowns just haven't been there in order to kind of bolster him. So it was great to see. And once again, we talk about Stafford passing. So I assume, making that leap of faith, what your thinking is, but I assume that you're kind of high in Marvin Jones for the next few weeks.
I'm more interested in him. I would say that. And I mean, he's a good player. We know he's a good player. This isn't some, some guy that just does it for 1 week and you've never heard of him before. Hopefully I think this might just be the jump start he needed to actually, start playing a lot better here. And I hope that's what it is. Against the Giants next week, Oakland the week after, I think they got a couple good opponents that they can actually do it against. So we'll see. Maybe this is just a 1 week thing, though, and he goes next week again, like 4 for 20. Hopefully not, but I think if the Lions are throwing the ball, he's going to be good. And
can we just say the top 3 wide receivers are guys we would absolutely assume would be here? You have Marvin Jones, Pascal of Indianapolis, in case people didn't know, and then MVS from Green Bay. So that's quite the top 3. Everyone obviously ranked them accordingly.
Yeah, where'd Pascal come from here? 6 for 106 and 2 touchdowns.
I have no idea. Truly.
I didn't see that coming. He's been involved a couple weeks ago. He had 4 for 72. He had 2 for 53 the week before that. But the last game he played, it was only 1 for 8. I mean, you just don't see that coming at all. I will say, though, I did pick him up in the Scott Fish Bowl before this past week.
Oh, lucky you.
But I didn't play him.
Oh, well, still, at least you have him.
I picked him up, but I didn't play him.
That's a half win. I'll give you half credit for that.
Right? just for picking him up. Right?
Yeah.
But he's an interesting player. Maybe we'll talk about him in waivers. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if he's worth that yet or not. But then Valdez-Scantling, only 2 catches, only 3 targets, but he turns it into 133 yards and a touchdown. I don't know what to make about that. He's gonna catch some big throws, but 2 targets. He's 4-2-3 as his targets the last 3 games. I don't know. I wouldn't pick him up. I wouldn't play him. Maybe he's on your bench, but I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I mean, I can't put a whole lot of... Yeah, I mean, you just don't know what to expect. So I highly doubt that I would be playing him either. You'd have to have some real injuries and some real buys going on for me to say why not.
Then DeAndre Hopkins bounces back finally, has a pretty solid game, which is nice to see. Stephon Diggs gets himself another good game, so he seems to be back on track. Corey Davis, maybe he just needed Mariota to be gone. Look at that, 6 for 80 and a touchdown.
I mean, yeah, it does make me feel better about his options. And obviously, I've always been a huge fan of Corey Davis and never a big fan of Mariota. Now that connection is broken, I would give him another look now. And right now, his value has to be very, very low. So I don't mind you buying low on Corey Davis in case he turns into something.
And then I'm sure we all had Alex Erickson being the best Cincy receiver this week, and being better than Tyler Boyd or Auden Tate. Jeez, 8 for 137. I don't know where that came from either. 14 targets.
It was a very weird week.
Right? That just came. I mean, I guess last week he did jump up to 6 targets. I'll give him that, but I didn't see that coming. A lot of decent performance. Michael Thomas, 9 for 131. No touchdowns, so solid. But Devontae Parker gets himself a touchdown, which is 3 straight games with a touchdown.
I know I don't want to fall back into the what if game with Devontae Parker. What if he fulfills all his potential and this and that? Even though it's it looks up a bit, I'm still off that train. I'm not hitching my wagon to that guy.
No. So I'm gonna go down the list a little bit here, and I'm gonna bring up Keenan Allen, because now this is 4 straight weeks where he's gone now 5 for 48, 4 for 18, 2 for 33, 4 for 61. Not sure what's happening. And that's off 11 targets, too, that 4 for 61. 11 targets turns it into 4 for 61. Not sure what's going on there with the Chargers. And that's Keenan Allen. We thought early on he's going to just have a massive season, and now it's just you can't even rely on him anymore.
No. Well, I mean, let's be honest. It was, weeks 4, 5, and 6, they completely forgot about him. When you go from target-wise, you go starting the year, the weeks 1, 2, and 3, 10, 15, and 17 targets, and then you drop to 5, 6, 6, and then at least they got back on track as far as looking for him. So I think if that continues, he'll be okay. But obviously, you're at Chicago next week. I don't think that would probably be the game to bounce back. I still obviously hold firm on him, but man, they gotta start just peppering him the ball again because he was so effective when they did that.
And then another guy down the list here, as soon as we talked him up, Cooper Kupp has not done much in 2 weeks. 4 for 17 last week, 6 for 50 this past week. I think that'll come around. This week again, they play Cincinnati this week. That should hopefully be a good one. We thought Atlanta would be that. It just wasn't for some reason. That's the thing though with so many guys to throw the ball to. We thought he was starting to stand out above them, but I guess it's still truly not. I mean, Woods was 5 for 80, Cooks was 459, Everett did pretty decent. So yeah, he's not good enough to stand out ahead of everyone yet, which I thought he was getting there.
Yeah, he's not bulletproof. So we learned a very important lesson. I still very much like the guy, but he'll have down weeks. We found out.
Then we all hyped Michael Gallup up pretty good, and he turns it into a 3 for 30.
Yeah, that one bummed me out a little bit. I'll be honest, because I really wanted to see like the next young wide receiver take the step, but nope, not really. Did not happen.
And then talk about the big game for Marvin Jones, but it came at the expense of Kenny Galladay. Actually, 1 for 21. Yeah, that was disappointing for Kenny Galladay owners. Didn't see that one coming either. But about tight ends, talk about a couple tight ends here. Darren Waller, 7 for 126, 2 touchdowns. The guy signs a big contract the other day and then actually plays really well after that, which is good to see after 2 weeks before this were only a 4 for 39 and 7 for 53. So it's good for him to get back on track, get his first 2 touchdowns. And I mean, he's one of the top tight end options, I think, without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree. And he is more consistent than a lot of his counterparts that may be ranked above him. But I mean, really, these were the first 2 touchdowns he scored all season. I mean, that was really why he was still ranked a top 10 guy without scoring a touchdown. That is how impressive he has been. So even if it is like, every couple of games he gets in the end zone, this will be a great guy to own.
And then the rest of the tight end list for the next few positions here, they're only here because they got touchdowns. There's nothing impressive about these numbers, except the only good game is Hunter Henry's 6 for 97. That's solid. But before you get to Hunter Henry on the stat list, it's everybody's getting touchdowns. 4 for 70, 4 for 65, 5 for 55, 5 for 58, 4 for 50. It's all ugly games that get a touchdown to boost them a little bit. The tight end position is just not great right now.
No, 100%. So there are a few here that I find interesting. I just want to get your feedback on for everyone. The first one I'm going to ask is Gerald Everett. So, right, we did hype him up a bit. He is completely up and down, but another game in double digits. I mean, that's 3 out of the last 4. He's going against Cincinnati next week and then a bye, but he has a pretty favorable schedule. How much are you buying into him being a true weapon for the Rams?
I mean, somewhat. He's going to remain involved, and that's all that matters right now at the tight end position. So he's going to be a borderline tight end 1, I think, every week for me. He's going to find himself around that 10-11 spot, I think. If the Rams figure out their offense just a little bit more, I think he's going to be even, very valuable. Last week, I'm not going to read too much into that with San Francisco. Has been pretty good. But yeah, he's 3 of 4 weeks he's been involved. I think that continues.
All right. The next guy I have to ask, I have 2 more. And because I love him so freaking much and I really want him to do well. But Dallas Goedert finally got into the action. And I only ask because, he topped out at 3 targets, the weeks before. You're talking about weeks 1 through 5. Tops out at 3 targets. Last 2 weeks, he has gotten 8 and 4. and he has found pay dirt on one of them. So 5 for 48 and then 4 for 69 and a touchdown last week. Is this something you could see actually blossom? I know Ertz is still there, but is he actually worth looking at because of how bad tight ends have been?
So at some point, we have to forget how good Ertz has been. I almost think I think he still has that talent, obviously, but look at his stats. Goddard is just as involved. So what do you say? 8 targets and 4 targets the last 2 weeks there?
Yep.
For Goddard. So Ertz has had 9 and 5 the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So true.
Goddard is just as involved as Ertz right now.
And weeks 1 through 5, the amount of targets he had were ridiculous. So what has brought about the change though?
No idea. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. Or all of a sudden, but it did. It just happened, and maybe it's just the fact that they're just using him more. We always knew Goddard had the talent, but they weren't quite. They're still just using the one tight end. But maybe they've realized, let's use 2 tight ends. Let's play them both. And Ertz hasn't been spectacular at all. What has he done right now so far to earn spots over Goddard in this year? He just really hasn't. I think Goddard he's a borderline play coming up here. He's going to be close to that, 10, 11, 12, 13 in there too. Be top 15 for sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I don't know. You have to keep an eye on that one, but he is one that he has all the talent in the world. So we'll find out. And the last guy I do want to ask you about, obviously this one's a little bit of a stretch, but with the emergence or Cousins kind of, figuring out his game again, Irv Smith Jr., they absolutely loved him in the offseason. He's the rookie for Minnesota. He hasn't had huge games yet, but he was 5 for 60 against Detroit. He finally got 6 targets, and you're seeing that as Cousins goes up, he is starting to get more and more looks. And you saw how athletic he was when he got the ball. Do you see that there? I mean, obviously it's probably too early to play him or anything like that, but is he on your watch list, or do you think that he's just a rookie tight end and this is probably going to be, the height of it?
I'll keep an eye on it, but Rudolph went up as well last week. There ended up being almost identical numbers there. Rudolph just got the touchdown. With Thielen out this week, that's where it's going to get interesting to see how they play him. Like, does Rudolph get all the work and get a lot more, catches without Thielen there, or does Irv Smith stay involved? We'll got to see it one more time here, but I think Irv Smith's the more talented of the two at this point. Rudolph's best days are behind him, it looks like. So we'll see how that turns around. It'd be really interesting to see a tight end like that out there, though, for Cousins, with how they've turned this offense around. I'd like to see it, but it's still rookie tight end. It's tough to really trust anything like that. But, you could do worse right now. There's a lot of disappointments out there. And George Kittle. I want to bring up George Kittle here.
I was going to say, the only reason I didn't, and because he had another another poor game, but they played in like a monsoon.
It was terrible.
I was going to forgive him, but if you look at his numbers, though, if you're really looking at it, is he a guy that you're looking possibly to trade because he still has the name and tight end is so difficult to come by? Like, do you think you can get more value for him than what you have keeping him?
Probably not, only because I don't know what you get. Depends if you some reason had another tight end in your roster. Like if you picked up Mark Andrews early on. Andrews didn't play very well this past week either, but if you had picked up like an Andrews and you could trade Kittle for something of value, that's not a bad move. I would not mind that at all, actually. I think Kittle will be fine. This past game, it is really kind of hard to judge anybody that played in that game. It was rough. And I actually, 3 for 38 might be pretty decent in that game. with how bad that was. But I wouldn't, if you have a good tight end behind Kittle, I wouldn't mind trading him. But the chances that you have that aren't great. So, all right, I think that's it for the recap. We should run through some waivers real quick here. We talked about a few of these guys already, so we don't have to go too in depth. We talked about Chase Edmonds. I think he's our number one waiver wire ad for the week. I think you'd agree with that one. And then after that, if we stick with running backs, I think Ty Johnson has to be the second. For Detroit there, with Kerryon Johnson looking like he's going to miss some time. I think it has to be Ty Johnson. We don't really know much about Ty Johnson yet. He hasn't really shown a lot. He got the majority of the work there after Kerryon went out, and he turned it into 10 carries for 29 yards, so nothing that impressive, 4 catches for 28 yards. But someone has to get some kind of work. And if you're really hurting for running back, maybe you look at him. But I really do feel like it's going to be a passing offense because, I mean, it might not be, McKissick's going to get some work too. They're going to have to go get themselves a running back off the free agents here, I think. Maybe they just do they go get CJ Anderson back or something?
I mean, they probably will. I don't see him making a major move, but I've been wrong before about this. It's always interesting to see what players they actually believe in, especially when we don't know. The general public knows very little about Ty Johnson and whether or not he can be an NFL player. Same thing with McKissick. So I don't see them making a huge play, but I could absolutely see him adding a veteran or something of that nature. And I mean, honestly, your CJ Anderson is probably a very, very good estimation of what they're going to be doing.
Unless maybe they're one of the teams that go works out Jay Ajayi. But it all really depends on how severe the injury actually is. We really don't know much yet. So, okay, the other guy I have on my list for running back, I'm going to put Mark Walton here. We talked about him ever so slightly last week. And then he turns around this week and gets 14 carries for 66 yards. And he looked pretty decent out there. And that's against Buffalo, who has a solid defense. So if you're really hurting for running back, I think Mark Walton isn't the worst pickup in the world. They're all kind of in a split, though. It's like a three-way split. Except Mark Walton, to me, just the more impressive of the guys. I think you know what you got in Drake and Ballage at this point. And they want to see more from Mark Walton. So I don't think you'd trust him in your lineup, though, would you?
I mean, no, definitely not. Not at this point. It's a little early for that, but I mean, you make a valid point about the carries. If anyone's going to get over, 10 carries in a game, obviously they're worth a look.
And then quarterback-wise, I think, like we said, Kirk Cousins, you should go pick him up at this point. I don't think should be on the waiver wire anymore. He's proved enough here. He's owned in 38.8% of leagues, so he should definitely be picked up right now. And I think he's going to have a couple of good weeks here. Other than Cousins, under 40%, there's really not anything I'm terribly excited about. Garoppolo hasn't been great. Trubisky, I don't trust him. Bridgewater, he's doing well in real life, but still not great fantasy. Darnold, terrible today against New England. He'll probably be better than that, but it was brutal.
Once again, can we just talk about how good the pass defense has been?
They're one of the MVPs right now.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah, they just shut. I mean, end up 33-0 here. Just shut them out again. They're just unreal. Can't imagine New England finally has a defense this good, man. They're going to be tough to beat. Then what else do we got here? Not a lot of great options here. If you're, Zach Pascal, would you? And that's a 1 week thing. I guess it depends on how much you need a wide receiver. You get him.
Yeah, I'm still not buying into that one.
Me either.
I would have to find out. I think someone that would, land on my list would be someone more like Philip Dorsett. Healthy again. Obviously, the New England, they're kind of all over with wide receivers. Edelman is kind of the only one for sure. But I like trying to find that next guy up. He did catch the touchdown, against the Jets, which kind of bolstered his week because, he was just okay, 3 for 46. But I kind of like him.
I actually kind of like Jacoby Myers a little bit better than Dorsett.
Really?
I do. I don't know why. I like Myers a little bit better. But they're both similar in a way. Myers his numbers would have been huge if he didn't get he had Jermaine Johnson beat, and Johnson just did pass interference on purpose there to stop it. That would have been a big touchdown. His numbers would have been huge. He would have had 6 for 100 and a touchdown. So 5 for 47 today for Jacoby, and after 4 for 54 last week. So he's involved too, but you just don't know. Okay, and then N'Keal Harry, he's gonna be coming back here at some point soon. That just throws another guy into that. Yeah,
I mean, it's very, very true. You're playing kind of Russian roulette with who is healthy and who you're going to start and all of that. But yeah, if you end up getting one because you can get them for cheap right now, and you're correct, then it's great. So pick the one that you think is going to be the one that wins out and throw them on the end of your bench.
And then after that, I think it's probably time to start looking at some handcuffs if you haven't picked them up already, like the Alexander Madison. He should be owned. It's just if Dalvin Cook went down, Madison, I think, is going to be a top 15 running back. I don't think he'll be that. He's not as good as Cook, but he'll be very effective. Same thing with Tony Pollard. He's another guy I think needs to be owned at this point. So go pick up those handcuffs. I don't know what else I got here. You got anything else? Benny Snell Jr. maybe yet? We still don't know. We'll wait and see what he is. He looked pretty decent, last week. Didn't bye week this week, so we'll see. But that's about all I have.
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's kind of a weak waiver wire. I'm waiting for an injury or something like that to happen, but you never know. There's a few guys on here that could help you produce. So I don't think it's anyone you have to overpay for, luckily.
No, unless you really just need the running back help for this week, then you go get Chase Edmonds. But that's it. That's about all I got for that. That's it for waiver wire. We'll be back tomorrow with some rankings for next week. So get your start sit questions in for that. Email them to us at fantasyfootballprofit@gmail.com, or go find us on Instagram at fantasyfootballprofit. Get your questions in. We will try to get to as many as we can tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.